Hello guys, and welcome to my Boeing 787 Autoland tutorial. Today I'm going to demonstrate the features of the Boeing 787 Autoland system, or ALS for short. I'm going to reference this with the Boeing FCOM, Flight Crew Operating Manual, and I will outline each of the specific configurations of the system as it goes down. First thing that's going to happen, once we have armed the localizer and the glide slope, and we have captured both of them, this is when the automation will begin. If at any moment after this, if I were to press the TOGA buttons, T-O-G-A, or takeoff, go around buttons, the aircraft will execute a missed approach according to what's inside of the FMC. Okay, so presumably we are on the glide slope and localizer, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happens. Okay, once the aircraft is coming down the glide slope, the first thing you will see is going to happen at 1,500 feet. At 1,500 feet, you will see in the FMA the change. It will state rollout, flare, and either land 3, land 2, or no Autoland. Okay, and from 1,500 feet down to 500 feet, there will be another change in the Autoland system at 500 feet. And what happens at 500 feet is that runway alignment starts. The runway alignment, basically this happens depending on the crosswind, and this is what the airplane needs to do in order to maintain the center line of the localizer while approaching the runway. Okay, so for crosswinds requiring more than 10 degrees of crab, okay, that means the airplane is not banking, it's side slipping, that's a crab. So for aircraft that requires more than 10 degrees of crab, runway alignment will occur at 500 feet. A side slip, which is a bank into the wind, of 5 degrees will be established to reduce the crab, not this, but the crab angle of the aircraft. This configuration will be maintained all the way until touchdown. So basically the airplane will be leaning about 5 degrees into the wind, and it will maintain this 5 degrees of bank until it touches the runway. Okay, now if you have less crosswind, which requires a crab angle between 5 to 10 degrees, okay, you will have two alignments. The first alignment will occur at 500 feet, followed by a second alignment at 200 feet. The initial alignment will initiate a side slip to reduce the crab angle to 5 degrees, okay? And this configuration will be maintained until 200 feet, which will be the second alignment, where a second side slip alignment increases the side slip to further reduce the touchdown crab angle. Okay, so crosswinds requiring crab angles less than 5 degrees, no runway alignment occurs until 200 feet above the ground, where a side slip will be introduced to align the airplane with the runway. Okay, there's also another configuration of this if we have an engine failure, but for today's demonstration, we have two engines as this is a passenger revenue flight, so with the two engine, we will demonstrate a fully operational system. Okay, so next thing will be from 40 to 60 feet, radio altitude. The flight guidance retracts from the view. That's either on the HUD as the circle or on the actual PFD, that will be the guidance, or the cross or the X, which is the guidance of where the airplane is supposed to be. Okay. The next thing that will happen will be between 25 and 50 feet. The thrust levers will start to come back. These things on the side, they will come back and they will retard until they hit idle. Okay, that's 25 to 50 feet. And during the touchdown, approximately 2 feet above the ground to touchdown, the thrust levers will be at the idle position. And okay, on the FMA, you will see two things. You will see idle and you will see rollout. The airplane, once it gets onto the ground, it will maintain the localizer, which is supposed to be down the center of the runway, until I disconnect the autopilot switch. Once it is safe to do so, we will disconnect the autopilot switch and then I will assume full control of the aircraft. Okay guys, I'm gonna play some videos right now and we're gonna watch through it, and I will demonstrate the features as we can see it in a video format of exactly how the Autoland system works. So enjoy guys. Okay guys, so in this first video, I'm going to kind of show you the process of the automatic landing system in the Boeing 787, or the Autoland system. Right now we are currently heading towards Hanoi Airport. The landing runway in use today is runway 11 left, and we are on kind of a base to final. So the next thing, okay, we will turn from base to final in order to intercept the localizer. And once we intercept the localizer, the automation process will start to begin. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of stay quiet here and we can watch the video, and you can just kind of see how everything plays out. And after landing, I have a second part of this video that has some different angles, and I explain more into detail the exact processes in the Autoland system. So guys, enjoy this first part and I will get back to you in the second part.
How can we be free again? We have our new normal speed now.
So right now we are fully configured for the landing. Okay, I just ordered the gear down, flaps 20, and we set the speed for the flaps 20. Okay, I just ordered flaps 30 and speed checked. So at this point I will have my colleague set flaps 30, and I will set the ref speed for the aircraft. Once the flap reaches down to 30, we will do the landing checklist. I just called landing checklist, and checklist complete. Okay, as you can see, even though the automatic landing system is in progress, of course we still put our hands on the control, because at any time, let's say some internal malfunction happens, the autopilot could disconnect, and at that point we should be able to transition into either a manual landing or we must go around depending on the weather criteria. As today is a clear day, of course, if something happened, we would just manually land the aircraft. Okay, we just got our landing clearance, clear land, runway 11 left, 1,000 calls. This is again the radio altitude from the aircraft to the ground, 1,000 feet above the ground. Five hundred calls.
Approaching minimums. Minimums.
Okay, the approaching minimums call is because we set it for category 1, but this is just a demonstration automatic landing. Otherwise, the minimums would not call at 200 feet above the ground. So here we go. You can see the automatic landing
50,
system in progress.
40, 30, 20, 10, 5.
Okay, very smooth landing and rollout. At this point, I will disconnect the autopilot.
Flaps 10. Okay, speed check. Flaps 10. Okay, now 250 over there.
In the meanwhile, we are just kind of descending until we get to the final descent altitude, or minimum descent altitude, until we capture the glide slope, or sometimes we can capture it above. You can see the glide slope also is alive, and we're slightly below it. Once we capture it, you will see GS, which means we'll be actively on the glide slope. Okay, it's coming. This box, that's radio altitude. That's basically a vertical spread of the distance from the aircraft to the ground. Okay, as you see, the glide slope has been captured. Now it's boxed and in green. So at this point, as stated before, the toga, or the takeoff go around, is officially armed. So if I were to press those buttons, the aircraft will actually execute a missed approach. So as we continue down, currently you can see the radio altitude at 2,000 feet, 2,040, 20, okay. This also takes in effect the terrain that's below the aircraft. So sometimes you see it go down and up. That's because it could be a tree or it could be a building or anything. So the next procedure, or the next thing that will happen with the autopilot, will be at 1,500 feet. Okay, we are currently 1640, 20, okay, 1,500 feet. There it is. Roll out, flare, and land 3. So according to the land 3, the aircraft is in completely operational status. Everything is working exactly the way it should be. Okay, the next thing we will see, well, we don't have really much crosswind, so unfortunately there won't be any aircraft crabbing or yawing on this approach, but we'll wait until we see the further indications of the Autoland system. Okay, currently crossing through 1,000 feet. Once it gets less than 1,000 feet, you see that the box turns into a circle, and it's more of an analog display to display our radio altitude above the ground. Okay, 700 feet. $600 feet. Okay, 500 feet. Runway alignment would begin. Next thing we're looking for is at 200 feet, because remember, at 200 feet, everything becomes inhibited.
Minimums.
Okay, MM, middle marker. Rising runway.
50, 40,
Flare.
30, 20,
Idle.
10, 5.
Roll out. And at this point, you will hear the warbler. Okay, I've disconnected the autopilot, and now the aircraft is completely under my control. Well guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I enjoyed doing this tutorial for the Autoland system, and if there's anything you'd like to see in the future, like there's some procedure, or you want to see me fly a certain way, or you want to see me do something, or even explain any system or anything else in this airplane, please let me know. and I'll be more than happy to produce a future video for that. Anyway, you guys, thanks a lot, and I will see you in another video. Peace.